The human camp was silent, too silent for a place that once carried the noise of soldiers talking and machines running. The young soldier named Ryan sat by the cracked wall with his spear in hand, listening to the wind. He had survived battles before, but tonight the silence felt wrong. It pressed against his ears as if warning him that something was near. His heart beat faster, and his eyes scanned the darkness beyond the ruined wall where stars burned faintly in the sky. The first scream came from the edge of the camp. It was sharp, high, and ended too quickly. Ryan leapt to his feet, spear ready, as shadows moved between the broken structures. Shapes too tall and too quick for any human patrol slipped in and out of sight. Then he saw her. A figure stepped forward, her skin green under the faint moonlight, her hair pale like silver ropes falling across her shoulders. She was no ordinary alien scout. Her presence filled the ruined street, as if the world itself bent to her arrival. Ryan's mouth went dry as she walked closer. She moved like a hunter, each step careful and silent, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Behind her, he could hear more humans shouting, steel clashing, and the terrible sound of tearing flesh. The war had come without warning. These aliens were not here to capture land. They were here for something worse. The girl leaned forward and spoke, her voice soft yet filled with hunger. "You smell delicious," she whispered, her lips curling in a smile. "Your flesh must be so tender." The words struck his chest. Harder than any weapon could. He gripped the spear tighter, but his body would not move. She was beautiful in a way that made his instincts betray him. Every part of her face was perfect, but behind that beauty lay danger. He could see the faint scars across her cheek, the sharp teeth when she smiled, the cruel delight in her eyes. She circled him, fingers brushing the wall, nails scratching lightly as if marking her prey. His training told him to strike, to fight, but his legs felt frozen to the ground. The camp was burning now. Fires spread from tent to tent, and the cries of men filled the air. Ryan could hear the crunch of bones, the ripping of armor, and the laughter of more of these creatures. But she was different. She had not rushed to kill him. Instead, she leaned closer, her hand resting on his chest, feeling the wild thump of his heart. "So fragile," she whispered, tilting her head, "so alive. I could break you, or I could keep you." Her words made him tremble because they carried not just threat but choice. Ryan forced himself to breathe. He thought of his squad, of his commander who had fallen earlier that day, and of the promise he had made to fight until the end. If this alien girl thought she could toy with him, she was wrong. He raised his spear suddenly, the tip inches from her throat. For the first time her smile faltered, though only for a second. Then she laughed, a sound like sharp glass breaking. She leaned even closer, pressing her forehead against his, unafraid of the weapon that could pierce her skin. "Good," she whispered. "Fight me, it makes the taste sweeter." Her hand wrapped around the shaft of the spear and pushed it gently aside. In that moment, Ryan realized the truth. This was not just another alien soldier. She was something higher, something that hunted not for survival but for pleasure. Around them the war raged, humans falling, fires burning, the night alive with destruction. Yet here, in the center of it, the battle was no longer about armies. It was about him, one human, and her, the carnivorous alien girl who had chosen him out of all the rest. His fear turned to cold determination as he understood that whatever happened next would decide not just his fate, but the fate of those who still lived. Ryan's grip tightened on the spear, but the alien girl's hand on it made him hesitate. She was stronger than she looked, her fingers steady, her smile calm. Around them, the war was chaos, but she seemed untouched by it, as if the burning camp was nothing but a stage for her game. His breath came fast, and sweat ran down his temple as he forced himself to focus. He had survived battlefields before, but never had an enemy stood so close, so beautiful. and so deadly at the same time. The alien girl leaned closer, her voice soft but sharp. "You fight well, human, but you will not win tonight." She pressed the spear downward until the wooden tip scraped against the ground. Her green skin glowed in the firelight, her braided white hair catching sparks as they floated through the air. Ryan could feel the heat of the burning camp behind him, yet her presence was colder and heavier than any flame. She studied him as though his fear was a prize worth more than victory. Ryan's heart hammered against his ribs. He thought of running, but he knew she would catch him in seconds. He thought of striking her with his free hand, but her grip was too fast. Instead, he took a slow breath, remembering his commander's words, "Humans fight hardest when they are cornered." He let go of the spear suddenly and stepped back, forcing her to lose balance for a split second. With that moment, he drew the blade from his side and swung it at her. Sparks flew as the metal clashed against the strange armor on her shoulder. Her laughter echoed, not in pain but in delight. She pushed him back with one hand, her strength inhuman. The blade had left a shallow mark, nothing more, but her eyes burned brighter now. "Yes," she whispered, "that is what I wanted, a taste of your courage." She moved so fast that Ryan barely saw it. Her hand gripped his wrist, twisting it until the blade slipped free. In the same motion, she threw him against the wall, the stone scraping his back. Her face hovered inches from his, and her teeth gleamed in the light of the fire. "You are not like the others," she said, tilting her head as if studying a rare animal. "They screamed and begged, but you fight. That makes you valuable." Her words chilled him more than her touch. He realized then that she had not killed him because she wanted more than flesh. She wanted to test him, to break him slowly, to savor every step of his resistance. Ryan clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm. He knew she wanted fear, but he would not give her the satisfaction. He lifted his chin, staring into her glowing eyes with steady defiance. The sound of battle roared around them. Soldiers shouted in desperation, the clash of weapons mixing with cries of pain. The fire spread across the camp, devouring tents and supplies. Ryan knew most of his squad was gone, but he also knew that if he let her control him, it would all end here. "I will not be your prey," he said, his voice firm. She blinked once, then smiled wider, as if his defiance only made her hunger stronger. "Prey?" she repeated. "No, human. You are much more than that. You are a challenge. And challenges are what I crave most." Her words carried the weight of truth. Ryan's legs trembled, but his spirit hardened. If she wanted a challenge, then he would give her one. He pushed himself from the wall and tackled her with all the force his body had left. They hit the ground hard, rolling through dirt and ash. For a second, he felt the advantage. His arm pinned hers, his blade recovered and pressed near her throat. Her eyes widened, not in fear but in surprise. Then her laughter returned, louder and sharper, echoing through the ruins. "Yes," she shouted. "This is what I wanted." Even as his blade cut against her skin, she showed no fear, only excitement. Ryan's mind raced. He realized she was not just one of the invaders. She was something more, something higher in rank or blood. The way she commanded herself, the way the other aliens glanced toward her in the distance before continuing their slaughter, told him she was not ordinary. If he killed her now, perhaps he could shift the battle. But her strength was overwhelming, and her will seemed unbreakable. As the firelight burned in his eyes, he knew this was no simple fight for survival. This was the beginning of something far greater, a war that would test not only human strength, but also the human spirit. Ryan pressed the blade harder against her throat, his muscles straining as if this single strike could change the outcome of the night. The alien girl did not resist in fear, but stared at him with a gaze that cut deeper than any weapon. Her glowing eyes locked on his, and for a moment, the world outside vanished. The fire, the screams, the clash of metal. All of it faded until only her voice filled the silence. "Do it," she whispered, her lips curling into a daring smile. "Show me what it means to be human." Her challenge was sharper than any blade. His chest rose and fell with quick breaths. Sweat dripped down his brow, stinging his eyes, but he did not blink. The weapon trembled in his hands, not from weakness but from the weight of choice. To kill her might end this nightmare, or it might make him just another beast in a war of beasts. He had always believed that humans fought not only with strength but with reason. She seemed to know this, and that knowledge made her smile widen as though she was peeling back his soul. Ryan gritted his teeth and pulled the blade back, lowering it with a growl. "I am not your kind," he said firmly. Her laughter echoed. In the firelight, with one swift motion she rolled him onto his back, straddling his chest and pinning his wrists to the ground. Her strength was terrifying, yet her touch was almost careful, as if she feared breaking him too soon. Her face hovered close, her breath warm against his skin. "Not my kind," she repeated softly, "yet you carry fire in your heart. That fire tempts me more than flesh ever could." Her words chilled him because they carried desire not only to consume, but to possess. She leaned closer, her teeth flashing, and for a brief second he thought she would sink them into his neck. Instead, she pulled back, leaving him trembling. With confusion and anger, Ryan shoved upward, breaking her grip with sudden force. He rolled free and scrambled to his feet, his lungs burning as he sucked in smoke from the fires around them. The camp was nearly gone now. Only a handful of humans still fought in the distance, their figures small against the waves of alien warriors. He knew that if he did not act soon, none would survive. Yet the girl moved slowly, as though time itself bent to her will. She stood, gracefully, brushing ash from her armor, and looked at him with calm hunger. "Run if you want," she said, her voice low and sharp. "You cannot escape me. You are already mine." The claim made his blood run cold. He tightened his grip on the blade, refusing to show fear. She tilted her head, studying him like a puzzle, then stepped closer again. Her movements were silent, her body flowing like water over stone. Ryan could hear the chaos behind him, but his eyes never left hers. He felt as though the entire war narrowed to this one meeting, this one struggle of wills. His legs screamed for him to run, but his heart knew that running would mean surrender. "I will never be yours," he said through clenched teeth. The words tasted like steel in his mouth, but they gave him strength. Her smile did not fade. Instead, it deepened, as though his defiance was exactly what she craved. She spread her arms wide, inviting him to strike, daring him to try again. The firelight lit her green skin, her white braids glowing like threads of silver. Around them, the night air carried smoke and the stench of blood, yet she stood as if untouched by it all. "Show me," she whispered again, her eyes burning with challenge. "Show me what humanity truly is." Ryan lunged forward, his blade slashing across her armor, sparks bursting into the air. She caught his wrist in an instant, but this time, he did not let go. He twisted, forcing the steel deeper until it cut across her shoulder, leaving a dark wound. For the first time she hissed in pain, but her smile never broke. She pulled away, blood staining her armor, and laughed in delight. "Yes," she cried, "that is what I wanted. Do not stop now." Ryan stared at her in disbelief, realizing that every strike only fueled her desire. She was not afraid of death. She was addicted to the fight itself. His blade dripped with her blood, but her body stood strong, her eyes glowing brighter than before. He understood then that he was not fighting a soldier. He was fighting a predator that had chosen him above all others. And this predator would not stop until one of them fell. Ryan staggered back, the blade heavy in his hand, his breath sharp in his chest. The alien girl stood before him with blood dripping from her shoulder, yet her smile glowed brighter than the fire that consumed. The camp. She stepped closer, fearless, as though the wound was nothing more than proof of his worth. Every second she moved, Ryan felt the weight of her presence pressing harder on his mind. She was not just here to fight. She was here to bind him into her cruel game, and he could not allow that to happen. The ground shook as alien soldiers advanced through the ruins, chasing the last of the human defenders. Ryan could hear their battle cries, a mixture of snarls and guttural roars, but the girl raised her hand and the noise dimmed. Even her own kind slowed their march as if waiting for her command. She was more than a warrior. She was a leader among predators. Her green eyes locked on Ryan, and her voice cut through the smoke like a blade. "Stand tall, human. Show me you are worthy of survival." Her words were both a challenge and a promise. Ryan's body ached, but his spirit rose. He had been pushed beyond fear, beyond hesitation, into a place where only resolve remained. He raised his blade and pointed it at her chest, his arm steady despite the shaking of his muscles. The fire on them cracked, the air thick with smoke, yet he found his voice. "You will not break me," he said, his words carrying across the ruined camp. She laughed, the sound sharp and beautiful, and then she moved. Her body blurred into motion, faster than his eyes could follow. Her strike came with such force that the air itself seemed to split. Ryan blocked with all his strength, the clash ringing through his bones. He slid backward across the dirt, sparks flying as her claws tore across the edge of his blade. The shock rattled his arms, but he held firm. She pushed harder, her face inches from his teeth bared, eyes burning with delight. "Good," she hissed, pressing closer. "You resist, you fight. That is why I chose you." Ryan grunted under the weight of her strength, his knees bending, but then he twisted, pulling her momentum aside. She stumbled for the first time, and his blade flashed, cutting across her side. Her blood stained the dirt, dark against the firelight, but instead of anger she let out another laugh. "Yes," she cried, her voice rising above the chaos. "Make me bleed. Make me remember this fight forever." The soldiers in the distance watched in silence, waiting as if this battle between their leader and the human was sacred. Ryan felt the pressure of their eyes, but he focused only on her. He could not let her see weakness. He lunged again, driving the blade at her chest, but she caught his wrist and twisted. Pain shot through his arm, forcing him to drop the weapon. In the same motion, she shoved him to the ground, her foot pressing on his chest. The weight crushed his ribs, and he gasped for air. Her shadow loomed over him, firelight framing her braided hair like a crown of silver flames. "You are fragile," she said softly, pressing harder, "yet you endure. That is what makes you dangerous." Her words struck him harder than her strength. She was not mocking him. She was telling him a truth she believed. Ryan's eyes narrowed as he reached for the ground, fingers brushing the dirt until they closed around a broken spear shaft. With a surge of strength, he drove it upward, piercing her side. She staggered back, her cry echoing across the battlefield. Ryan rolled to his feet, chest heaving, vision blurred by smoke. His ribs burned, his body bruised, but he stood tall. The alien girl touched the wound at her side, her fingers stained with blood, and then she looked at him with eyes that gleamed brighter than ever. "You surprise me," she said, her voice trembling with both pain and joy. "No prey has ever struck me so deeply." She stepped closer, slower now, yet still filled with power. "Perhaps you are not prey at all. Perhaps you are something greater." Her words carried across the silent soldiers who waited in awe. Ryan tightened his grip on the broken spear. His body screamed to collapse, but his spirit forced him forward. If she wanted to test him, then he would prove that humanity could not be broken. Fire roared around them, the night filled with the smell of ash and blood, yet the only sound he cared for was her voice and the beating of his heart. He knew the battle was not only for survival but for meaning. If he could endure this night, if he could stand against her, then maybe humanity itself still had a chance. Ryan's body trembled with exhaustion, but his spirit still burned. The alien girl stood across from him, her side bleeding, her shoulder marked, yet her eyes glowed brighter than the flames tearing through the camp. The soldiers behind her stayed still, watching in silence, as if the outcome of this fight meant more than the war itself. She raised her head, smiling through her pain, and spoke in a voice that cut through the smoke. "No prey has ever pushed me this far, human. You have given me what I always craved. A fight worth remembering." Her words carried both respect and hunger. Ryan gripped the broken spear in his hand, his knuckles white, his breath heavy. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest, yet he forced himself to stand tall. The fire behind him roared, the last screams of dying men fading into the night. He was alone now, the last survivor of his unit, yet he felt the weight of all humanity pressing on his shoulders. He stepped forward slowly, never breaking eye contact with her. "I am not your prey," he said, his voice steady. "I am human, and I will never bow to you." His words carried like steel in the air. The alien girl tilted her head, her silver braids falling over her shoulders. She laughed softly, but there was no cruelty in it now. Instead, there was something else, something deeper. "You stand broken, yet unyielding," she said. "Your flesh is weak, your bones fragile, but your will is stronger than iron. That is why I wanted you." She walked closer, each step slow and deliberate, her hand brushing the blood on her side. "If I kill you now, I will lose the one thing I did not expect to find, a human who makes me doubt my own hunger." Her voice wavered between desire and hesitation. Ryan kept the spear raised, though his arms shook with fatigue. He did not trust her words. He had seen her hunger, heard the cruelty in her whispers, felt the weight of her strength. Yet in her eyes now there was something different. A flicker of conflict, as if she battled not only him but herself. He realized then that victory did not always mean killing. Sometimes victory meant standing so firm that even the enemy questioned their own path. He steadied his breath, waiting for her next move, knowing that this moment would decide everything. The alien girl lunged suddenly, her claws reaching for his throat. Ryan thrust the spear forward with the last of his strength. The broken shaft struck her chest, piercing deep before snapping in two. She gasped, her glowing eyes wide, her body shaking, as blood spread across her armor. For a heartbeat, the world was silent, fire frozen in the air, the watching soldiers holding their breath. Then she fell to her knees, her hands pressed against the wound. Her face lifted to him, and instead of rage, she smiled. "You have won," she whispered, her voice soft. "But not because you killed me. You won because you never surrendered." Her head lowered, and her body slumped to the ground. The alien soldiers let out a howl that shook the night. Ryan braced himself for their attack, his broken weapon useless in his hands. But instead of charging, they stepped back. One by one, they lowered their weapons and struck their chests in salute. Their glowing eyes turned toward him, and he realized they were not here to avenge her. They were here to honor her choice. She had chosen him as her final test, and in defeating her, he had earned their respect. The fires of the camp roared, but the battlefield grew quiet as the alien army pulled away into the shadows. Ryan stood alone, his chest heaving, his legs unsteady. The night air was heavy with smoke and ash, yet above it, the stars shone bright. Untouched by war, he dropped to his knees, his body too weak to stand, but his spirit unbroken. He had survived the carnivorous alien girl, not by running, not by begging, but by standing firm as a human. Her words echoed in his mind, not as a threat but as a strange kind of gift. She had called him fragile, yet dangerous, weak, yet unyielding. In her final breath, She had given him something no enemy had ever given before. Recognition. The dawn rose slowly, painting the sky in pale gold. The battlefield was silent now, only ashes and ruins marking what had once been a camp. Ryan stood, again leaning on the broken spear, his body aching but alive. He knew the war was far from over, but he also knew that tonight had changed everything. One alien girl had come to devour him, but instead, she had left him with a truth that would guide him forever. Humanity could bleed, humanity could fall, but humanity would never bow. And as long as even one human stood, the fight would never be lost.